Hello, everybody, and welcome to Choice, Change, and Action podcast. So today I have some guests on, and two of my favorite people, Amanda Anderson and Viktor Anderson. Welcome.
Thank you,
Hi.
Simone.
Thank you.
So they are brother and sister. Amanda is currently in Sweden, and Viktor is in Mallorca. They actually bought a house together with their mother in Mallorca, which I'm very much looking forward to going to Mallorca in July. I'll be there for a couple of weeks, so I'm sure I'll be tapping on their door and haunting them, stalking them. It's called soft stalking. But we're going to talk about business and family, but also I just want to mention that I'm an access consciousness facilitator. If you've just been listening to this podcast, it's like I facilitate a lot of classes around the world. And one of the main classes that facilitators facilitate is foundation. And the first foundation class that I ever did anywhere, I'm Australian, wasn't in Australia. It was in Sweden. And it was with your mom. It was with Nina. Like, there was a few other people, but Nina was there. And so I never met you guys. I met Nina. Fell in love with your mom. She's just absolutely adorable. What I remember is just going, wow, she's so potent. Like, in the things that she had chosen. One of the businesses I know, I don't think she has anymore, was the ambulance business, which is privately owned in Sweden. So in Australia, ambulances are government run. It's not something you can do privately owned. And when I listened to her and talk about how she started that and involvement, I was so impressed with her tenacity of just to keep going and to build this business up. And I think it was quite a while later that I met you two. When did you guys come? Like, your mom was choosing access consciousness, and then when did you guys come along? Let's talk about that for a second.
I think that you did that foundation class. It's probably 20 something years ago.
Yeah.
And then I did my first class ever with Dane in 2013.
Okay.
And then I did my first foundation class 2015. So yeah, it was a few years after that.
Yeah. And you, Viktor?
Yeah, same. So we did a bars class with our mom. What was that, like 2008? That was like sort of the first exposure. And I wasn't interested in anything sort of different at that point, rather than everything else that I was choosing. And then I did my first foundation class in 2017. So there was like kind of a big gap there where I guess we had it around us, and I guess we were swapping bars occasionally and whatnot. But then eventually so the first exposure was through my mom. The second time around, when I really started getting into it and was keen to start creating something different, was through Amanda, because she had been choosing it for a couple of years. Yeah.
So the first bars class, truth, did you actually want to go to it?
Fuck no.
I love that. Both of you are like, no, oh God. It's like going to a Sunday, family lunch that you don't really want to go to. You're like, we've got to go to this bars class. So what did you think at the first bars class?
It's so funny as well, because that was the first and still to this day, the only bars class that our mom ever facilitated.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Was it just you two, or was it other people?
And there was a few other people. I remember I had one of my best friends at the time was there with me as well. And basically the only thing I remember is that I was running her bars, and I was so amazed by how, what it created. Like, I remember actually having that sense of whoa, this shit is actually really cool. But then I had this thing of but I also don't really want to do it because it's weird and it's my mom, and I was 18 at the time, and that whole story.
Yeah. And you, Viktor?
Yeah, I remember it was cool, and I did perceive something, and I was like, whoa, this is kind of different. But I was so committed to, I was on a different kind of path at that point.
You're allowed to say you were committed to drugs and
for sure. Yeah. The whole party thing. I was committed to not being very present with much at all. And I think also because it was through our mom, and but it was funny. The timing was just it's not, I don't know. And she was doing this weird goobly-goop, the clearing statement. I'm like, Mom, you're losing it, But then the second time around, when it was through Amanda, and it was just then it was really everything just sort of like fell into place.
Yeah.
And when I did my first foundation class, everything started changing right away.
Yeah.
You know, we started dismantling our business, and I started working with Access, broke out with my girlfriend, started traveling. It all sort of just like, wow, you know, now's the time, you know. But it was definitely a seed that had been planted many years before.
Yeah, it's, when I first found Access to, when I got my bars run, I was like, man, you know, I was like, didn't really see what was so great about that. I was so intrigued by a different conversation. Like, I remember talking to Gary, and there was another facilitator at the time, and then just the way they spoke had so much difference and yet so much truth to it. Like, I was like, yeah, that, like the really weird shit that I was like, that, I know, you know, and that's what I would get so enthused about. And it was quite a while until I finally went, oh, can somebody please run my bars? So it wasn't the thing that intrigued me. And if you're listening to this and you're like, what are bars? Please go check it out on the Access Consciousness website. We have literally thousands of practitioners and facilitators doing bar sessions around the world. And it's 32 points on your head that when you touch, it starts to eliminate all of the fixed points of view, like the judgments, the limitations, the thoughts, feelings, and emotions. It's for me, it's like giving you a clean slate. You know, like when you have your computer open and your computer starts to slow down, it starts to like spack out because you've got so many documents and so many programs open, and it goes, please shut me down before I shut you down. That. And then you just go delete, and you restart, and then there's your computer without it just force shutting you down. That's how I would say bars are. They're absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So so you were involved in the ambulance business as well, the family business. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, it was actually our grandparents or our mom's parents that started it already back in the 60s. So, you know, it's been a family business for a long time. And then our mom took it over in the beginning of the 90s. So when I was maybe 2 or 3 years old, she took it over and then built it. Like she built it from, I think there were maybe 200 people and then up to like 1,500 people. And she really grew it a lot. But it was a lot of different businesses within the business, quote unquote. And then at one point when I think I was maybe 24 or something like that, me and Viktor took over part of the company. But before that,
So
we were.
like? Was that the first time that you guys started working together as such, like on a business?
I guess so, yeah. I mean, we both were involved in the business already. You know, we started probably working there, both of us, when we were very young, you know, on weekends and summer breaks and stuff like
holidays,
that. Yeah. But yeah, I guess that was the first time that we really started working together. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, in a sense, like we had both been in the business in different kind of positions, and you know, we had both been working up in the office, I think, for years. You know, I was like coordinating the sort of like not the ambulances, but there's like a similar kind of thing where we just transport like old people and sick people and disabled people like between the hospital and the home and stuff like that. So for years I was sitting up at the office coordinating that, and I think you were sort of like doing customer service or something, Amanda. And so we were like working within the company in the same office for I think quite a bit of years and stuff. But then when we actually took over this one part of the business, that was actually a service that we provided for disabled people that cannot really like take care of themselves in their homes and stuff. That's sort of like where we got into and started working together, running that part.
Did you like working together?
I think that was maybe the only thing that I liked about it. You know, it was like we learned so much, and I was so grateful for the whole thing. But it was just like it was just one of those things that we never really desired. But it was like, oh, we're doing this because this is what's here, and of course we're gonna take the opportunity, so to say, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting with family businesses as well. I mean, as soon as I left high school, I was like just working my butt off in bars and different places so that I could make lots of money. And not lots of money at the time, I thought, you know, just so I could leave Australia. And that was all I wanted to do, was explore the world. And my brother, he went and studied accountancy. My father was a chartered accountant. And I remember, like, then he went, because Dad owned this business, and Dad's dream was like, he came from that era where the men are meant to look after the women, like you're meant to do that. And he's such a gentleman, and his generosity of spirit and all of that. And he wanted David to work there. And so David started working there. And I got to take my hat off to Dad, because at one stage he looked at David and he said, I don't think this is for you. Because Dad would get into work, and the first thing he would do is look at, say, the Financial Times, like something, business, finance. And he said, and the first thing David would go to is the back of the newspaper and look at all the sports stuff. And he was like, do you actually really want to be doing this? And I'm so grateful that he was willing to have that conversation with my brother. And my brother said no. He had a lot of those tools under his tool belt, which was great. And then he ended up buying a sports bar in Australia. And then they owned a sports bar, him and his mate, in Los Angeles. And so he took his skills and started choosing his own life in a different way. Mm-hmm. And yet Dad was willing to sort of go, okay, I don't think the family business is for you. Definitely not for me. I was already tripping all over the world and doing my own thing, and knew that wasn't going to happen. So, yeah. So let's talk about, though, because you guys are still creating together now. I mean, I love that you guys just bought a house together in Mallorca with your mum as well. So let's talk about like co-creating together as a family. Like, what has that been like? Like a necessity, choice?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna there's so much. But I was like, turning 40 and like, why not move in with my mom and my sister, But our mom is not really living here, but she's here from time to time. But it's
she put in some money.
Yeah. But it's so cool. I'd say since we started talking about our mom as well, like she's always had our back. It's been such a beautiful journey. Even when we chose to we don't want to do this part of the family business anymore, and we sort of like ran it into the ground, not maybe on purpose, but on purpose at the same time. And she was like, whatever you guys want to choose, and that's always been the case. So that's always been a beautiful part of it. And one thing that I can also acknowledge, that I sort of like acknowledged for myself a couple of years ago, is Mom has always had this thing of like, whatever she chooses, she creates. And I realized, wow, that's actually something that I've really received from her. And I've learned from her that, when she's like, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm choosing, it happens, it occurs. It's never not possible. So that's definitely something that's sort of like just been a part of my reality as well. And that's something I'm so grateful for.
That's a great trait to be around. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So same with this house. It just sort of like it just gets created with ease when it gets chosen. So that's been amazing.
You guys were also working in. So how many businesses have you been working together? After we sort of like ended the family business part, we started House of Belusa at the time. So I guess the first one, then that one, and then now within Access Consciousness and stuff. And you also had a photography business, didn't you?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, House of Belusa was me, Viktor, and my husband at the time that was doing photography and videography and productions and stuff like that. Yeah.
So tell me more about what it's like to co-create with your brother then, Amanda.
Well, I think like such a big part of it is we've always had so much allowance for each other, and we've always had each other's back in a really cool way. Like both me and Viktor, and as Viktor mentioned, also our mom has always really, just supported us, and really we've always just had this desire for each other of like, I just want Viktor to be happy. I just want him to choose whatever he's going to choose and whatever is going to be fun for him, and then it's like our paths have crossed, and then they have gone each other like separate ways, and Viktor has moved to the other side of the planet. Like he lived in Australia for a while, and but it's always been this cool dance of just like, okay, cool, now here we can come together and we can create something, and then you go over there and do something, I go over here and do something, and just it's just such a cool, beautiful, when there is no expectation of it on any of it, or we don't put any expectation on each other, which is also, again, I think our mom was like an invitation for us to be part of the family business, but she also didn't really expect it. And she was also totally fine with us choosing not to. So, it's just so much more ease to actually co-create together when you also have the willingness to not create together.
Well, I also like that you say that what you want for Victor is to be happy. Whereas like a lot of people, like my mother always used to say to me, I just want you to be happy. But what that meant was I want you to do exactly what I want you to do so you don't embarrass me. Because my father was like, he actually did desire for me to be happy. So what would you say if people were looking at creating a business within the family? What would you recommend? What do you think are like 2 or 3 of the most important things that you need to be aware of or look at?
I think you have to really, because this has been like such a gift throughout our lives, I would say, but it's also been such a journey and you learn along the way. And so getting to a place where you actually choose something, because for so many years, I tried to sort of like fit myself into what was expected, maybe not so much from our mom, but like if you grew up in a family business, for example, you're so aware of so many points of views and projections and judgments from everyone around.
Structures as well, like that's actually interesting, because how many structures are within a family business that are already there that you're not meant to come in and rock the boat, yeah.
And then the people you work with, your colleagues and stuff, they're like, oh, you're only in this position because your mom owns the company.
Right.
And so then that brings a whole lot of like, fuck, then I need to prove the opposite, or I need to align and agree, or I need to, totally choose something different. So I guess I would say one big part is just getting to a point where it's like, okay, what is it that I truly desire? And then just, fucking use whatever you have available. Like, what if you didn't have to prove that you're worthy or that you're not, or, that you have to do your own thing? Like, what if you could actually take advantage of whatever you have available and be cool with that?
That's a really cool thing to say. I like that, because I mean, in the classes I've done, especially like Business Done Different or money classes, you see so many people who come along and they're judging that their life is easy. Like, and what do I mean by that? Like, they're judging that they either married someone with money, or they were born into someone with money, or possibilities. And I'm like, no, you chose that. You chose to be born in this body, to those parents, in this lifetime, in that country, in that culture. Like, acknowledge it, embrace it. Don't try and make it hard when it's actually ease.
Yeah. Oh man, that's been such a journey, I think, for both me and Victor. Like, because again, like Victor mentioned, like the projections were not just for the company, but from everyone. Like, I remember from friends when I was growing up, and there was this constant projection of like, oh, hi kitty. And it's been such an interesting thing, and it still shows up every now and again. Like, it's there still a little bit in the background, but way less than it has been before. And yeah, like, I'm so grateful for the tools of access to actually get to that part of really acknowledging, but I'm choosing, I'm creating, and I'm so grateful, because the interesting thing as well that can happen as well when you have that is that you also feel that like need to reject the people in your life that are actually contributing to you, because you want to prove that I can do it on my own or whatever. I did that for a few years with my mom. Like, I don't want to be my mom, and I don't want to, and then there goes the gratitude and the gifting and receiving as well. So it's such a good point to really.
Yeah, like really, if this is, when you're listening to this and this is like ringing true to you, please start receiving what it is that you actually chose, because you chose it. So receive it. And, I've got, with my father, he always just wanted, like, he truly wanted me to be happy. He wanted me to have everything, to explore everything. And he always used to say, oh, my daughter, he had a Lithuanian accent. It's a bad Lithuanian accent, but he'd go, oh, my daughter, she's so wild. And he'd always go, I will always be here for you. I will pray for you, and I will be here for you. Because I'd end up in the craziest situations. But he was always there and desired to actually financially contribute to me too. And there was probably about 8 years that I was like, I don't need your money, and petulant, hands on hips. I can prove that I don't need it. From sleeping on people's couches and doing, like, I was trying to prove so much that I could create without money and without his money. And finally one day, when I mean, the second book I wrote, Getting Out of Debt Joyfully, when I finally realized how in debt I was, and I spoke to him about it, and he offered to write me, this is how ages ago it is a check for $50,000 to help me towards it. And I actually received it, and I watched his whole body just relax. And I went, holy shit, all of these years I've been saying no, and it's been like a fight and creating this barrier between this man who absolutely adored me and loved me and just wanted to contribute to me as his daughter. And when I finally received that, I went, wow, that's unkind. So how many of you listening to this are being unkind to the amazing, beautiful people that you chose to be around, namely maybe your family or even your friends, everywhere that you are choosing the unkindness and not receiving so that you can create separation rather than like that vulnerability of being in communion where you destroy and uncreate it times a gazillion. Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all 100 shorts, boys, proverbs, creations, bases, and beyonds. It's okay to have possibilities available. It's okay to have money. It's okay to be born into a good family. Like that's not something that you need to hide. It's actually something you need to be really grateful for and cherish, is what I would say.
So true.
Yeah, and I heard recently someone say that it's actually generous to receive, and I'm like, oh, that's so true, because it's such a gift when someone would like to gift and it gets received. That's just creating greater for everyone.
I love that. Well, if I look at my dad, he works like 6.5 days a week, pretty much my whole life. And then he's got this petulant daughter saying, no, I don't need what you're putting your, working your ass off for. It's like, wow, what a bitch. So when I did finally, just noticing that when I finally received it, I get that. Thank you for saying that, Victor. It is. There's a generosity in actually receiving. So what else would you recommend for people who are desiring to work with family members? What should they like? It's sort of like that, like what we're talking about. You can fall into this and go, hey, these possibilities are here, like you had, right? But Victor, you mentioned something too. Have a look at what you desire. So like, I think there's that people go, oh, it's a necessity to go into the quote unquote family business rather than, are you going to be a contribution to it, etc. Or like, what would you say some red flags that it's like, maybe it's a no or?
Well, I think if you have this point of view of like, it's just there, so I might as well. That might be a little bit of a red flag, because I think it's easy to kind of quote unquote fall into that of like, and especially, like we were like, again, I was 24. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't have that clarity.
Do you know now?
Mostly.
Sometimes I'm like, I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up.
And
where want to be, actually.
Yeah. And in that age, you're like, oh, I don't really know. Like, and it's easy to just kind of follow along and you just quote unquote end up somewhere, which is not true, of course, because you are choosing, but it can be perceived and feel that way. So I think that might be a little bit of a red flag. Like whatever it is that you just like, I just found myself in this company or in this relationship or living here or whatever. That might be one of those to stop and get really present and, ask some questions of like, what would I actually like to create? Is this going to work for me? What would I like to choose?
Yeah. Sorry, Simone.
No, you go, Victor.
No, I was just going to say, like, so acknowledging that you're actually choosing, because it might seem that you're not and you're just sort of like flowing along, but like everything is being chosen. So at least for me, that's been a big one to really recognize that I'm actually choosing everything, but then that gives me freedom to also make different kind of choices. And I'd say one other big part is to have no point of view, like no investment in a point of view of what your sister or brother or mother or whatever is going to choose and how that's going to look and everything. That's been the greatest gift for me with Amanda, is that she's always been there having my back, but like there's not, at least from what I've perceived, been much of a point of view of what I should choose. So having that space of allowing each other to explore whatever the other, whatever you're aware of, that wherever you need to go in your life, like we're all on different paths. And to have someone that doesn't have a point of view about what you choose, that just like brings you even closer. It just creates communion. You might think that communion would be, oh, we have to go on the same path.
Okay.
But what if it's the complete opposite? They're like, okay, let's just, choose whatever you're aware of. And then that will sort of like what Amanda mentioned as well. It will go like this, but there will be a thread of communion through the entire journey.
Mm.
It sounds so beautiful what you're talking about, and I know what you're talking about, and I've seen you two like together too. You guys you do have each other's backs, and I always like to say that I've lived a colorful life, and I have no place to judge anyone. And I know, Victor, at least I know you've lived a colorful life as well. But it's like when you have someone around you that's actually not judging you for what you're choosing, but is still there and still has your back, and is still just like, hey, I'm here. Like there's no right or wrong. There's just choice. And I think that's a really big thing to get to with any other being, like whether it's, family or friends or lovers, etc., that there is no right or wrong. There's just choice, and you get to choose. And as you choose, you create. Yeah.
And that's something that I've talked about many times, but it also creates a future. Like, when I was going on a journey of like a lot of drugs and a lot of interesting choices and like getting a little bit bonkers, Amanda was always there in a way, with no point of view, at least from what I perceived. And then when I was ready to choose something different, she was there. So her throughout that entire journey, having no point of view and just like, I'm just here, not really like telling me what to do or whatever, allowed her to still be there on the other side of it. So it's really creating a future, to just have that space for someone. It's amazing. It's such a gift.
I like that, creating a future. So what future do you see now? What future are you asking for? What future are you shooting for?
Oh, goodness. Good question. Like there's so much, I've perceived that so much really lately, just like the last few months, the last few weeks, even, especially with everything that has been coming up in Access, and we've been clearing so much, etc. It's like, it's more undefined than ever before, I would say, but also like bigger and more expansive than ever before. So I'm like, I have no idea what's going to show up next, but I'm very, very, very excited to explore.
Yeah, me too. It's like just play and explore. Yeah. And what about you, Victor?
Well, it's just been so different lately, and I don't know, I have this enthusiasm for living more than ever before, and it's so cool. And everything, what I've been aware of is like talking about business as well, is that everything is part of it. It's not just when I'm doing something and I'm on my computer and I'm on meetings and I'm on, I'm working. It's everything. And so when I can go like, wow, okay, so I'm really excited about making choices that make me happy, that creates that adventure of living and just getting out there. And I don't know, I got to a funny awareness the other day. I'm like, I wonder if this is what some people call a midlife crisis, what I'm experiencing right now. Because I have this intense sense that I have to choose everything that I desire right now. I don't want to wait for anything. I'm just like, I'm going for it right now. And whatever creates that like, excitement in my world where I'm like, it almost like, can I really, do I get to like, and I want to go for those choices. And it all sort of like contributes to everything. And that's what I'm excited about right now.
That's awesome.
I like that. I was talking to someone today actually, and because not the same, but I was looking at the other day, I'm 56, and I was like, God, I wish some of the things that I was choosing now I'd chosen in my 20s, but you can't sort of have that as your perspective, because what I chose in my 20s, I chose in my 20s, and what I chose in my 30s, I chose in my 30s, and that's who I am today. But this woman was asking me today, so So I have one of my t-shirts on. It's just part of the merchandise, Magic, Miracles, and Chaos, right? If you're on Spotify, you need to go and check it out on YouTube, because we're on YouTube. And she was talking to me about, well, how would you even do merchandise? Like, how do people do merchandise? And I went, well, I happen to have the answer to that. And I told her how I used to work in the music industry, and one of the companies that I created and owned was, one of the biggest in Australia, but I just found access. And I remember going on tour, and this musician friend of mine said to me, do you like being on tour? And I went, yeah, but I think I want to go on tour with this new thing I found, but I was doing merchandise then. And so I explained the whole setup, and she went, how did you even know how to do that? And I said, well, there's different people have these different, capacities. Like, I've always been really creative, and I've always done these, different things, and set that up and researched it and explored and, what next? And then she goes, how did you even find the money to start it? And I looked at her and I went, do you really want to know? And she goes, yeah. And I went, I sold drugs in Sydney. She was like, oh, and I went, but I had this amount, and I went, I need this amount of money. This is the amount of drugs I'm going to sell. And I worked in a bar, and I found these two English guys, really great guys. They were in their 30s at the time. They backed me and they basically invested some money in me to start, so I could buy drugs, so I could sell it, and this whole thing. But I was telling her about the first book I ever wrote is Joy of Business, which is translated in 20 languages. And I realized as I was talking to her, because you don't really look back over your life and like chronologically look at all this. And as I was talking to her, I went, God, I was such an entrepreneur. Like, even from like, how do I get drugs, or how do I do this, or and set this up, and just kept moving forward. So I realized everything I've chosen has been amazing. It's like it's gotten me to where I am today. I have so many like capacities and skills, and to just keep choosing, like, not judge what you haven't chosen, but just keep choosing. Like you said, Victor, it's like everything is here now, and I've got to choose it now. And there was this other thing I saw the other day, which I thought was brilliant, where he said, what's the life you're living? Like, are you being, sedentary and just sort of, keeping this normal average life? And he said, what if you lived a life where people went, they're nuts? And I was like, that, I mean, how many, like, your lives are so different. You grew up in Sweden. Now you have this, house in Mallorca. You travel all over the world. Me too. Like, I forget when someone said to me, oh, you excited about going to Europe? And I went, yeah. And I went, I'm actually really excited just to be home right now. Like, I'm grateful for this. And you realize, like, people work their ass off to get to Europe, and I go there a few times a year. And it's like the difference that you create and that we create through our choices, which we've been talking about, but through our choices, through business, all of that and more. It's like to embrace that. And really, like, what if you were told, you're nuts how much you choose and how much you create? And I was like, let's be that. More of that, please. Like, everything that you add to your life, because there's so much that's possible.
Yeah, I love that. And that is such a beautiful energy. And it's such a, like, yes, a lot of people are going to judge it, and that's okay. But a lot of people are also going to get really, really inspired by it. And that's the part that I think we sometimes forget, like when we choose to actually create a life that we have that enthusiasm. That doesn't mean that everything is always sunshine and rainbows, and sometimes shit gets tricky, and
sometimes there's a storm coming, and it's like, what are you going to do with that storm?
yeah. But the willingness, exactly as you say, to just keep going and keep choosing. And that's something that you, Simone, have shown. Like, I'm so grateful to see you throughout the years, because you really do. Like, you keep choosing and choosing and choosing. And it's such an inspiration. And then, you perceive it in others, and then you're like, oh, okay, so what can I choose? And then maybe you have to challenge yourself a little bit. And sometimes it's really uncomfortable, but like that forward, because I think we are like that innately. But we are also, like the general public, we're also like really good at suppressing it. But we actually have that forward motion where we just want to, like, oh, I just want to go. I just want to choose. I just want to play and contribute, and aware of all of these possibilities. And like, because, I can just speak for myself, and, my body starts to move when we talk about this, because I know that I've been like before Access, I was like, oh no, I don't know if I can, and what about this, and and then everything goes like that. So just that willingness to like go, and then yeah, a lot of people are going to think that you're nuts. And that's okay, because a lot of people are also going to get really, really inspired by it.
Yeah, I mean, I've had my fair share of vilification, that's for sure, and judgment. And it's like I cared at one point, and now it's like I don't care, because I get to wake up and be me. I get to wake up and choose what I choose, the same as you guys. And it's like I have so many beautiful, amazing, friends and beings all around the world that I know that I can, lean on and call for any sort of contribution. And to me, that's absolutely priceless. And I'm not going to hold myself back for anyone. So I just want to say out there too, if you're listening to this and you're listening to the three of us, because, Mandy, you're saying I'm an inspiration, but you guys are also a major inspiration to me as well, and everything that you've chosen. It's like, if you are currently holding yourself back, it's like, who or what are you holding yourself back for? And what is the value of that? And if you no longer held yourself back, what else could you choose? And everything it doesn't allow you to perceive, know, be, and receive that, where you destroy and uncreate it, right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all 100 shorts, boys, proverbids, creations, bases, and beyond. Wow. How is it going to get better than this? Yeah.
And also start trusting that just also start trusting that you do know. That's something that I've explored and experienced so much. Like, wow, we actually do know so much that's so beyond what we can figure out beforehand, beyond logic. But when you can start following those pings of like, something is pulling you, whether it's a travel or a business opportunity or whatever, if you go for those choices, it will take you to like unexpected places. But in hindsight, it always creates like, I have so many examples of choices that I've made where it's like, oh, I actually knew something, but at the time I couldn't explain it. I just went for it. And then in hindsight, I was like, wow, I put myself in a position where all of those possibilities could actualize. And if I wouldn't have made that first choice, none of that would have occurred. But there was no way of.
Story?
Oh man, do I guess. Moving to Mexico was one, yeah, because I just sort of like went there to visit a friend, but I got so pulled. I was in Brazil working, and then I was like, I feel like I should go to Mexico. So I just went up there for a two-week kind of trip to visit my friend, and then I ended up living there for 4 years from that trip, because it just sort of like all just sort of like here. Yeah. And they're like, oh, we're just moving into a house. Do you want to move in? I'm like, okay. And then that opened up opportunities for me to work in that side of the world. And it just like opened up everything. And I got to explore that side of the world. And so much became possible from that one choice to go and visit my friend. And, everything changed from it.
Yeah. I love that. Because, I mean, how many people would like have that pull, but then go, oh, no, I can't, because it's not appropriate or something. And it's like, what if, like, life and living is not meant to be appropriate.
That's a good meme.
Right?
That's
and I was like, I had no idea how far it was from Brazil to Mexico either. I'm like, oh, I'm in the neighborhood. I might as well. But it turned out to be a longer trip up to Mexico than back to Europe. But
I was going to say, everybody always thinks Brazil is really close to all of those like countries there. It's like, no, not quite.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there anything else you guys want to mention here? I know we've sort of gone all over the place. It's like unexpected places.
I'm just so amazed and surprised by what living can become, like I can remember what my world used to be like, and very controlled and sort of like boxed in and limited. And I had all these decisions, what was possible and not possible. And now just going like, wow, that's so not my reality anymore. I'm just like, anything seems possible now.
Can I ask you something though? Because the way you say that, I know I had the same thing going on for a while, and I think a lot of people do. But like who was creating that? Do you know what I mean? Like, were you trying to be normal, trying to fit in? Like what was creating that? Because in truth, you've always had possibilities available. It's like, or you've always been able to move to Mexico, or you could move somewhere else. But what do you think actually changed for you that you went yes and started choosing something different.
Yeah, I think it's not just one choice, it's many, and just starting to sort of like play with exploring different kind of choices, even just making one different choice. Because I have these memories of me defending points of views and realities that were never mine. And I
Yeah.
probably even knew it at the time, but I was like fighting so hard to keep them. It's wild. Like I would just like, no. As soon as someone would even suggest a different kind of possibility that was outside of that box,
Yeah.
I would just like, fight it.
That's
But
so interesting. Yeah.
yeah,
It's like how many people are fighting for a point of view that's not even theirs.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
big time. So yeah, you go, Amanda.
Yeah, I just wanted to add as well, like for me in my experience, I think it really what started to shift everything was just some sort of choice and demand of not being so unkind to myself. Because really, like all of that, like when we would defend, when we prove, when we hold on to points of views, when we judge, we're just not being kind to ourselves. And I remember having one of those moments many years ago where it just dawned on me. I was like, I'm being so mean to me. And that was one of those moments that just changed everything. Because and from that moment, and then of course again it goes up and down, but to have more of that demand of like, if you're willing to be kind to you, then the possibilities and everything shows up way easier, and you can also receive from others in a whole other way, because it has to start with you. Like that intimacy, like gifting and receiving, has to be with you, and then you can have it with other people as well. So
yeah, and with that, Amanda, I actually remember one choice that I did, or a demand that I did have, was a similar thing. I remember being like, because at the time I was doing a lot of drugs and stuff, and I always really enjoyed the high, but I had such a hard time coming down, and I always had to get back to reality. And that was like the hardest thing for me. And I used to get so depressed. So at one point I made a demand, like, I never want to come down again. I never want to go back. I never want to have this. Like I never want to go from that high back to something that I'm not enjoying. And that was a demand I made before even, I think that I just planted a seed for myself, and it was along the same lines of like, fuck, I'm being so unkind to myself. What am I doing here? Like, this is not working. And so that I think in hindsight, that's started changing everything, actually, that demand.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I don't talk about drugs all the time, but I always notice when I do, somebody always reaches out and says, hey, thank you for that conversation. So I always know if it's popping up, it's appropriate. And I love when you said that too, because I was definitely one of those people when I took drugs that I was like, yeah, let's take some more. Like I was not the one that went, no, one's enough. I was like, no, come on. And then the downer was like, I remember taking like half an ecstasy just to go to the supermarket because it made it easier. It was just how I chose, right, at that time. But I also I was so desirous of something different, and I knew something was different available, but I couldn't find it anywhere else. And, my first choice for possibilities class, which used to be level 2 and 3, I just stopped that class. I went to that class. I got the manual. I sat in the class. I bawled my eyes out. And I remember Gary Douglas coming over to me. We had a break, and he came over and he said, are you okay? And he was talking about taking drugs in the class. And I said, yeah, you got me on the drug thing. And he said, taking drugs is like sitting on the top of a fence. He said, and choosing consciousness, one day you'll end up impaled. And I went, okay. And he didn't say don't. I was so grateful. He didn't say it's bad, it's wrong, you shouldn't, whatever. And I remember going outside, and I had my van and the beach. It was a beautiful day. And I went, God, I could go to the beach right now. I could just walk out of this class, or I could walk back in and find out what this guy's talking about. Because it was pulling me so hard. It was so what I knew. And so I went back into the class, and it was really vulnerable and pretty hard to be in there. But that moment, never touched drugs again. I just went, no, I found what I was looking for. Like, and I have no regrets of everything I did. Absolutely. I have no regrets of anything I've chosen. Like I said before, I like that I've had a colorful life. And you know what? Sometimes you color outside the lines, and we're still coloring in. There is so much more possible than what we have currently chosen. That's what I love. If I talk to you guys in 10 years' time, we'll be like, and then so much more showed up. Like if you'd said to me, you're going to, be, investing in a property in Costa Rica and have 4 horses there, I'd be like, Costa Rica, that's too far away from Australia. Like you have all these reasons and justifications why we don't choose something, rather than, as we have mentioned throughout this whole podcast and including talking about what your mother chose right from the beginning, choose. But when you choose, then you create it. And keep choosing. Yeah. Anything else? Just hang out with you guys all day, all night. You go up in the morning.
I mean, yeah, I can share something that I'm really excited about right now. That's sort of like magical and a good example of like how living can just change, because like I used to have this very, like I mentioned, controlled, kind of calculated, predictable living. With the normal, you go to vacation when you're not working and all of that. And this year I've been so excited about one trip that I'm planning that sort of like keeps growing. So it started with like, I want to go to this music festival in the US. I was like, fuck, can I? And then eventually I made a choice of like, I'm just doing it. So I got a ticket. And then I was like, what else? And it started becoming like a road trip, and I'm going to do it by myself because there's something I'm aware of. It's such an adventure with it. So now it's turned into like a bigger and bigger thing. And now I'm doing a music festival in Kentucky. Then I'm going to go to Missouri to watch like a motocross race. Then I'm going to go to North Carolina to get some tattoo by an artist that I absolutely fucking love. And the cool thing with it was like, and then I can do this and this and this. And then, my girlfriend, she lives in Panama. I'm like, I can start with going there. And then, so that's how the trip started. And then all these different kind of classes, access classes started showing up. So like, now I'll go to Panama, and then I'll go to Mexico to work on a class. And then I'll go down to Brazil to work on a class. And then I'll go up and do my road trip in the US for 3 weeks or whatever, back to Panama. Then I go to Costa Rica to work on another class. And so that whole thing is also creating revenue to support the whole adventure. But the choice to do the road trip occurred before I knew about any of those classes. So now it's turned into like a 3 months trip. That's a wild combination of just fun and also making some money and being part in creating. And I'm just aware of like what it's going to create for me. And I'm like excited as a small little kid, like, I love that. And that's just like, wow, that's where I'm at right now, where I make a choice and fucking magic just explodes from the choice.
But can I make a comment that the way you talk about it, Victor, is you're not concluding it. You're receiving it and enjoying it. And I think that's really imperative for people to get, because you're not going, okay, so this is what it's going to be. Dun, 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 dun. Yes, you've got a schedule, like, with the classes, etc. But you have this energy of like, and what's going to show up here? Like, like a kid, when I open this box up, what's in here?
And it almost keeps creating itself at me. Like, I'm not even in charge anymore. It's like I just made a choice to go there, and now all these different kind of things are showing up. And I think that's just a cool example of like that thing of like, follow that, whatever brings that excitement to your universe, like that magic just shows
follow
up.
The energy.
That's my experience for sure.
Yeah, love it. Love it.
So you can tell I'm a little bit excited, and I'm like, what else is possible,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for being on here. I'm going to see you guys in Europe. You know what I just thought about, Victor, though? It's funny that you say that. There's a thread that we were in not recently with a friend's birthday, and I wrote in there something about like, one of my dreams is always to go to the Camino walk in Spain, and you just wrote, I'm in. And it was like, and you know what, that may eventuate and it may not eventuate, but the fact that it's like you put them out, like put it out there with the people, yeah, that like, hey, this is something that's like, it's there for me. That could occur in a year or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years or not at all, but it's there. It's like you don't exclude it, but you also don't make it a necessity. It's like have everything available. Yeah. Cool.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you in Europe soon. And yeah, big hugs. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Simone. It was really fun.
Yeah.
I adore
Cool.
you guys.
And thanks everyone for listening. Please subscribe, write a review, do all that stuff, share it with whoever you desire. And yeah, I'll catch you guys soon. Bye.
Yay.